ladies and gentlemen, speaking of Indian achievements, I want to put something on your screens. Can I get my PCR crew to help me out with this? Okay. So this is the touchpad on our screens. Okay. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a famous European figure by the name of Niccolo Machiavelli. Now, when I was a young lad, I have read Machiavelli's Prince, which is his definition of how governance and realpolitik should be conducted by the princes of Europe. This on your screens is Friedrich Nietzsche, who wrote the book Thus Spoke Zarathustra, another supposedly mind in realpolitik and strategy and military affairs. This is Sun Tzu, and the Chinese love quoting the art of war. It makes you wonder, no? It does make you wonder. Warfare in India, politics in India, governance in India, civilization in India goes back 4,000, 5,000 years. 4,000, 5,000 years. Okay? So we study Machiavelli, we study Sun Tzu, we study Nietzsche. We should add to that perhaps the study of the Dhanur Veda. The primary objective of war is to restore dharma. The victor in war should be compassionate and forgiving. War is the last resort. The Mahabharata. Fight for the sake of duty, treating alike happiness and distress, loss and gain, victory and defeat. Fulfilling your responsibility in this way, you will never incur sin. In war, there is no place for doubt. One must act with determination and courage. The only way to end a war is to seek a just and honorable peace. War is the last resort, to be avoided if possible, but embraced if necessary to protect righteousness. Okay, so why are we having this conversation? The reason we are having this conversation is that, and let me give you a very concrete example. 324, 325 BC, Alexander of Macedon arrives on the banks of the Jhelum River. We are told, because that's how Western history records it, he fights a great battle against the Maharaja of Porus, defeats him, but because he is so generous, he reinstates him as a king. Then we are told that the Greeks and the Macedonians, they had been fighting for 10 years, they were so tired, they were homesick. So Alexander, who had beaten the Persians, conquered Egypt, come all the way till the banks of the Jhelum, simply decided that it was time to go home. Or maybe we should think that at the same point of time, in Patliputra, there was a major Nanda empire which had an army that was 100,000 strong with war elephants, which perhaps was more adept than the armies of Xerxes and Artaxerxes and Darius and the Persians and the Greeks. And maybe that's why Alexander left, fearing defeat. Maybe. So we are supposed to learn from all these people and not learn from our own. What is the art of war and peace? And you don't have to read just Leo Tolstoy for that. So let me open up this conversation. Joining us on the broadcast, we have Utpal Kaul, Pawan Sinha is with us, and Vedveer Arya joining us on the broadcast as well. Mr. Kaul, let me start with you, because there is a particular context, and the context is that the Indian Defence Minister has just announced a new initiative that is going to bring tactics, theology and lessons of India's art of war with modern day training, techniques and technology. Why is that important, sir?
Thank you very much, Rishabhji. It's a very, very important, and we are only 70 years late in it. You were talking of that Indians, we Bharati, Sanatani thought that war is the last resort. Dharma is to be established. And what is Dharma? Dhriti Kshama Dhammo Astesham Shocham Indrai Nigraha Di Vidya Satyam Akrodha Dharmam Lakshadam. Basically, we are peace-loving people and we want to establish Dharma in our own family, in our own self and in the country. But war is very important. War gives us finally how to establish Dharma if there are evil. And because evil is always there, we see it today and we have seen it in history, evil is there. And so I give you an example that if you see the formation of, war formation of even Mahabharata, on one side is Kaurava and on the other side is Pandavas. It was a crocodile formation by Pandava. They were very less, but they won it. And I may tell you that we have many examples. We have much of education. Full of Ramayana is, we have examples, and we have examples in Mahabharata, and then there are many texts. And I give you the text of Raja Tarangni, how even Lalita Ditya, it was the power of Lalita Ditya, and how his army went beyond Bharata, beyond different, in not only in Indian subcontinent, but they went outside Indian subcontinent. And his way of doing was that not only offense is the best defense. And it was because of Lalita Ditya, the Arabs took 400 years, 500 years to come to Kashmir.
Okay, now I have a problem.
Give me one more example I give you. And we don't know. We had a women, ladies brigade, mountain brigade, ladies mountain brigade in Kashmir. And Mahmud of Ghaznavi, they put the trap. And it was by chance Mahmud of Ghaznavi saved his life. Otherwise, 2 times Mahmud of Ghaznavi was defeated by our Lady Mountain Brigade on Tos Maidan in Kashmir. So we don't know these things. How our army.
Yeah. So there's a problem here, in which I have a personal problem. I'm neither a historian nor a person from the armed forces, but I've read my Machiavelli. I've read my Arthashastra. I've read my Nietzsche. I've read my von Clausewitz. So I've read, Spartan history, Greek history, Roman history. I understand the concept of a phalanx and a cavalry. I understand this concept very well. I don't understand the Makra view, the Chakra view equally well. Why? It's a very basic question. It's because you're being told that the art of war is taught to you by Westerners. It's the British who came and modernized your army and created all the structures of the army. It's a battalion and it's a regiment, and that's how you're going to run. Because clearly you did not know what you were doing. And that's not true. That's simply not true. So what you're watching on your screens is the Arthashastra, is the lessons of the Mahabharata, the Makra view, the fish formation, the Chandra view, the moon crescent formation. The Chakra view, you are all familiar from mythology, is the spiral formation. So let me quickly rope into the telecast Vedveer Arya. Vedveer ji, we are calling it Project Udbhav. Okay. Is this a theoretical project? In theory, हाँ अच्छा है पढ़ना सीखना है, या is there a practical application, a life lesson, a strategic and tactical lesson that can be absorbed from here? Can we hear him? What's happened? Okay. Yeah, forgive us, sir. We are unable to hear you because we were unable to get that audio line fixed. So I'll put the same question to Professor Pavan Sinha, and I'll come back to you as soon as we are fixed. Professor Sinha,
Yeah.
is this just a nice exercise, very pleasant? It's something that we can, call academic, or are there practical applications, sir? Because the stories of the Mahabharata, the good, the evil, why to fight, why not to fight, what to do, what not to do, in warfare, techniques, formations, is this something we have to wake up to now at our age and stage?
See, there are two things, two important connotations are there, because all the three army chiefs, military chiefs were there, the defense minister himself was there. So it is not just for the sake of an exercise, it contains some reality also. Secondly, many people say that Mahabharata is just about war. Ramayana, there is no war. So these are not practical things. So these concepts, if they travel to the student community, so definitely they will understand that this too is a face of ancient Indian culture. So they will be more mesmerized and they will try to understand Indian culture in totality. So it's a good exercise, even if it is academic. Then too it is a good exercise. It will aware Indian citizens that you were advanced in science, technology, spirituality, and as well as in art of war. Many people do not know that there is Dhanur Ved, which describes about the war, many formations in war. Two, three very brief example I would like to quote. The one is about Shivaji. Shivaji's guerrilla warfare. What Che did, means Che Guevara did, the same tactics. What Vietnamese did, the same tactics. So we were quite advanced in guerrilla warfare. During Ramayana age also, we had the system of ambassador. Ambassador initially was Angad and then Hanumanji. They went to Ravan to shun the war. But when it became inevitable, the war started, and it started with so many formations. One part was commanded by Shri Lakshmanji, another part was commanded by Shri Ramji, and they tried to surround Ravan, and Raman also attacked from the height. These were the art of war. Then Kalerapattu. There are some evidences that Shri Krishna started the art of Kalerapattu and taught it to his own army, so that even if they are without arms, they can defeat the enemy. Then so many view formations which were adopted in Second World War, like blitzkrieg, etc., they were used in Mahabharata, where our forces used to sneak into Kauravas' forces very fast. Though we were less in number, but our speed was high, and that was why we were able to stop them from attacking the Senapati.
Okay, but Professor Pavan Sinha, there's a problem, sir. I'll tell you what the problem is. Okay, so you mentioned all of these things. I was doing a discussion just a few days ago about sports, and I did not know this, so it was educational for me. Hopefully, it was to yours also. So kabaddi, okay, it can date back to the times of the Mahabharata, because think about kabaddi: one person being able to go into an enemy camp or a fortress, knocking down as many enemies and escaping unscathed. Kho-Kho, it had training lessons also. So the problem here is that nobody in the world has heard of Dhanur Veda. The problem is the entire world knows the story of the greatest archer is Robin Hood. Everybody knows Robin Hood. They don't know Arjuna. Yes. Okay, we wrote in archery, we wrote the book, the Dhanur Veda, Dhanush Ban. Okay, we wrote the book on archery 2, 3, 4,000 years ago, okay? But nobody's heard about it. How do we address this problem? Because we are told that the Greeks did it all, they taught you everything, Machiavelli taught you the art fair, Sun Tzu taught you, and then the British came and formed your army, and before that you were all a bunch of losers.
See, we have enough evidences from Ramayana, from Mahabharata, from Chanakya's Ashtanga theory, Saptanga theory, then the theory of Guptachar, etc., then Samadand, these theories are already there. So we have to compile these theories. We have to compile the weapons in the hands of deities like Khadag, Talwar, Pash, etc., and how they were used. There are ample examples of that we can take as means as evidences, and when we compile them and give it to the students, India is dominated by youth at this time, and they always take interest in war, art of war, warfare, fighting, this and that. So they would definitely read it, and with evidences we are telling them, so they will feel pride and they will
Okay.
learn so many things.
Okay, Utpal called that there is the practice, and then there is the much more complicated question of strategy and tactics. Strategy and tactics are relevant to the modern day as they were 2000 years ago, as they were 4000 years ago. And people who are knowledgeable about these things become better participants in winning and losing. How did a small army of Babur defeat a larger army of Lodi? How did a Sher Shah Sur take on Humayun? Strategy and tactics in the modern context. We have not written these much because the first written texts are only available to us after the Baburnama starts. So what use is it to the modern day Indian armed forces officer, a lieutenant graduating from an academy? What use is all of this?
You see, every war is an experience. And I may tell you particularly about Babur. What he did what America did in Iraq as carpet bombing. For 5-6 kilometers, he kept these cannons for 5 kilometers and at the same time started all cannons. And so it was like a carpet bombing what America did in Iraq. And I think they got this idea from the Babur, what he did in 1526. But I want to go back to Mauryan times. And there was a fantastic intelligence system. And they used the girls, what they call at Vishkanya. And so then I have to give one example what the Chinese are doing. They take different territories inch by inch, and that was taught to us by even Vishnugupta, by Kautilya. Where he said, he gave the example of Kheer, that you cannot touch when Kheer is hot, when it is so hot, you cannot put finger in the center. You have to go to the border to take it little bit. So how we have to understand this, it was what is relevant today was relevant 2000, 3000 years before, because the war you have to have experiences and even...
Yeah, so it's war and in peace.
Peace, yes.
The object of defense is not to fight a war, and the object of war has to be able to restore peace. Perpetual warfare is not the answer. Let me try Mr. Arya once again. Vedviji, if you're able to hear me, cynics can argue that this is just saffronization, this is just Hinduization. Is that the case? Should we be teaching our ancient thoughts, strategies, or should we stick to the system that's already been built by the British and is continuing? Vedviji, are you able to hear me this time, sir? Okay, all right. Second time and unlucky, maybe third time. So let me get Panditji back into this conversation. Panditji, is this becomes then saffronization? कि जी अब आप मिलिट्री अकेडमी में भी महाभारत सिखा रहे होगे, ये कैसे चल रहा है, वे कैसे चल रहा है, or is this becomes indigenization, that we have a whole history of redeveloping, we don't have to do the bagpipes anymore, we have our own ways of doing things?
Those who say that it is the saffronization of academics, I don't hesitate to call them fools. We are studying history. It has nothing to do with greenization or saffronization or whiteization. It has just a history. And if any country is having the history and wants to communicate it to the world, to its own students, its own people, then how can it be the saffronization or Bhagwakaran or Hinduism? We are proud to have a good history. So when we don't hesitate to narrate the history of Mughals, so why should we hesitate to narrate the history of Bharat or Bhartiyas? So I don't think if they say, and even if they say we should not hear to them, they are just creating the fuss according to their own so-called ideology against a particular party, and we should focus ourselves on the history of
Okay, because
India that the world wants to
it's
know.
not just history of fact, it is history of knowledge,
Yes.
of science, of somebody having applied their minds. You know, if every time you wake up in the morning and you do Angrai, okay, that is stretching your muscles and that is the first step of yoga. But then somebody has to convert that into a science. And that science then becomes an art form which is now practiced all over the world. So let me put this thought process, if I can, to Utpal Kaul. Utpal Kaul, how is this relevant then that when I read the Plato and the Aristotle and I read the von Clausewitz and beyond, that people all over the world should also then read the Kautilya, should also then read the Dhanur Veda, should also understand the concept of Chakravyuh and Makravyuh, understand techniques and understand the philosophy of good and evil, what's okay, what's not okay, what is, today we have Geneva Convention. All of this is telling you the same thing. What is righteous in warfare, what is not okay in warfare. From Ashoka downwards, you have all these thousands of years of practical experience, distilled knowledge, which we have just left to rot. How do we revive it?
Rishabhji, I may tell you, I will use Napoleon. Napoleon, when he was on the deathbed, he said the last word, my sons, read history because it is only philosophy. What we have done for last 75 years, we have forgotten our own history, we have forgotten our own literature, and we were very much satisfied reading about Marx and his dialectic materialism. We were very happy and thinking we are modern, reading about Das Kapital or about Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace or some other European or Shakespeare. But we have so much of wealth of our literature. And I may tell you, not only we as Bhartis must study our own history and literature, we must translate it more and more in German, in French, in Spanish, in Chinese, so that the world knows that how great was our culture.
No, because it's educative.
Knowledge. It is full of knowledge.
I promise you, there's a book which I'll highly recommend people read, because human knowledge is not restrictive by time or by geography. It's called the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, and it's just his diary which he kept. And it's very moving, very telling, and I would recommend people read it. Similarly, I would recommend you read the Kautilya. It's human knowledge, 6,000 years of distillation of human knowledge, which you leave to rot, and a large percentage of that is right here in India, which we've left to rot. And we need to very deeply and seriously consider that. I believe Group Captain Jha is also joining us for a quick interjection on this. Group Captain Jha, human knowledge. Okay, so we are saying that in our academies and military academies and martial schools, that we should look back at Indian history. Why?
Why not? Actually, we have got the wisdom and the plethora of variety of the knowledge, as our previous panelist was telling us. See, what India was and what India is today, there is a vast difference in a way that we have lost our roots somewhere. The wisdom which was benign to our soil somewhere got left over, because they were the intruders, they were the invaders who tried to wipe out our history. there were people on our own side who were ready to take the new ideas and totally forget their own whatever beginning or the wisdom they had. Even when I was doing my graduation or post graduation, even that time it was so considered that if we give a reference of the Western writers, Western scientists, that will be taken in a greater substance rather than our own. Of course, I have been a student of science, medicine, design science. All this, the design of Indian ancienthood was no less, actually it was much advanced than what at that time prevailed elsewhere. So when we had the knowledge, the wisdom of all those things, why not have, why not be proud of all those things? And of course, we know that
is it changing or is the change being forced? Is it changing, Captain Shah, that people are actually realizing that, hang on, we don't have to read only the epic poems of John Keats, but we had great poets here. We've had a history of poesy for the past 4,000-5,000 years. We don't have to read only Shakespeare and the Greek tragedies. Similarly, in learning philosophy, in learning the art of war, of realpolitik, in learning strategy, in learning tactics, there is a rich treasure trove which is literally lying under the surface of dust in our own land.
Rishabh, we have to be careful. What we lost over 1,500 years cannot be regained in the small brief history of 6 or 7 or 8, 9 years. There has to be a continuum. And this effort of India, the modern India, the new India, must continue to revere our olden literatures, whether it comes from Veda or somewhere else. And just now our panelist was telling us, they are, and you yourself was mentioning many, which is much more than the knowledge that I have. When we have all this, Surya science that was there earlier that we were talking during the Aditya's launch, all these are there. Only thing is the continuity between the knowledge and the present.
So I'm going to present a very simple thesis to both my guests and to people watching this broadcast. Progress is not a straight line. After the decline of the Roman Empire, there were the Dark Ages in Europe. And then they had something called classical revivalism. It was called the Renaissance. When they rediscovered their philosophy, their architecture, their art, their science, and that led to Newton, that led to the Industrial Revolution. You are now seeing this classical revivalism, this Renaissance happening right here in India. We are calling it the Punarjagaran, the concept of a new yug, Amrit Kal. It seems only like theory, but you can now see it, that you're going to treat things that you earlier dismissed as archaic nonsense because they were not coming from the West. You've seen it with yoga. You're now going to see it with Indian food, because we've all aspired to having burger, pizza all our lives. I remember when the first McDonald's opened, when the first Domino's opened, when the first Pizza Hut opened. Now Indian food is going back all over the world. Indian fashion. Okay? So you're going to see this classical revivalism, a renaissance happening in India, and then that leads to a sense of purpose, a sense of pride, a sense of shared history and culture that transcends a lot of the nonsense that has been consuming us for way too long, and the parts that have been buried by the people who ruled over us from abroad. I thank my guests.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.